Deshaun Watson is not an elite quarterback. Deshaun Watson leaves the pocket on purpose over and over again, breaking down the offensive structure for the sake of creating plays because he can't read defenses and process the progressions fast enough to work within the framework of the offense itself. The reason you see this, and you know this is true, is, well, you can see it. The reason you notice it is because it's fundamentally true. The reason why I believe this is the reason he has good stats and not good, like a win above replacement in terms of quarterbacks, that's lower, is similar to Kirk Cousins. If you intentionally underperform the proper reads in the offense, long term, you will fail. You're creating high risk reward plays by moving outside the pocket to create open receivers because you can't throw them open or work within the pocket itself or work within the framework of the offense. This creates binary, high reward, high risk plays. And in the long run, you're going to have higher completion percentage, more touchdown passes, but also, unfortunately, more stalled out drives, less efficacy in the offense, less moving of the chains. What Kirk Cousins has done since he was a Redskins, I feel like he talked to his agent and said, listen, all I have to do is keep my TD to interception ratio high, and I will not be blamed for the failures in Washington, D.C. They'll call it organizational and be like, this is like Deshaun Watson. He's a great quarterback on a bad team. It's not his fault. But if you juxtapose that with the criticism of every other quarterback in the league that doesn't get their team to the playoffs, it becomes this weird, contradictory notion. How come one person's excused from that and the other is not? Even Kirk Cousins is not excused for some of the failures of the Vikings. I mean, they're loaded with talent. And yet he plays conservative football. I think he doesn't want to all the time. I think he's even more aggressive than Deshaun at times. But I think by and large, he reverts to the mean, regression to the mean, where he just is conservative with his throws. You recall there's this, if you're a Washington Redskins fan, there was a Jay Gruden, when he was head coach of the Washington Redskins, had a press conference after practice. It might have been during the season, it might have been in preseason, saying, God, if only Kirk threw some of the balls that I wanted him to, he'd have 50 touchdown passes. And Kirk was asked about that quote from the coach, and he said, yeah, it's funny. If I threw all the balls that Jay wants me to throw, Jay Gruden, I'd have 50 interceptions. So that's the trouble. He's not playing with it. So when they're open receivers or one-on-ones, he's less likely to go down. He's less likely to go after them. He's more likely to check down, which undermines the offense. It's almost like a Kelly criterion in terms of betting probability. Like you have a 65% chance of this completion. You choose not to take it. You take the higher percentage but lower return play. That means your net return overall is lower. That means the functionality of the offense is lower in and of itself, and that by and large, over time, you're going to dilute the value proposition. And when you're Deshaun, you're not even playing in Bill O'Brien's offense. You're literally running out of the pocket before the play develops, before there's pressure. You're worried about the pressure, or you can't read go through the progressions fast enough to avoid it. It's you only have 3 or 4 seconds. If you can't read the defense in that time, you're going to always be running out of the pocket. He seems to prematurely give himself extra time, trying to open up the offense. But what that does sometimes is it limits his abilities, keeps the underneath throws available. Occasionally getting guys wide open down the field from his scrambles, but by and large, people are going into deeper zones down the field and giving him the underneath stuff, which increases his completion percentage, but controls the offense. It controls time of possession. It controls his ability to make explosive plays that are functional within the framework of the offense. And then when it comes to driving, when you need to, when you're behind, you get into serious problems because defenses can be a bit more conservative with their play and drop back. And if you're just scrambling all the time, it limits your ability. You're not going to scramble for touchdowns every single drive. You're not Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson also has this problem. You only imagine if Lamar could use his athleticism to play inside the pocket, be like a Tom Brady that uses that bounce and the ability to sense pressure and move in the pocket. The problem is that sensing pressure and being an athlete and bouncing in the pocket and having good pocket movement are two different things. They're not the same. You could have both, but you could have one or the other, and that's a problem. And that's why I'm concerned for Lamar. like long term as a quarterback. There's so many skills that are not developed because he's able to run away. By definition, his practice, his ability to take those reps in those situations are diminished. So his ability to learn and his time horizon for getting better in those situations is longer because he's not practicing them because he's able to run until he's not, until he gets older. And then he's had 9 years of not doing that because he's able to avoid those situations and he doesn't know what to do. It makes you, and it's like, are you supposed to play these quarterbacks up until they're, a certain age and then teach them how to be cocky quarterbacks? Or should you force them and get some light here, limit their athleticism will I get some light? Let me see. Oh, it's all right. You see the thing on there. And limit their athleticism on purpose so that you can essentially maintain a better offense overall because your quarterback's improving. Does that make sense? Like, you basically strap his legs together and say you can only move in this box, and you can move any way you want, diagonal, up, down, left, right, box step if you will, do some ballet, but you can't move out of this, and that's your place to be athletic. You cannot, and tennis players do this all the time as they're learning to be more aggressive. The coaches force them from moving back. Like, they have to be within a foot or two of the baseline. They put a wall behind them. Nope, you can't back up. You have to play here. It lowers the timing of your opponent when you get to the ball. Makes things a little bit more difficult for you. Your footwork has to be great. But if you're a great athlete, I don't see why that's such a big deal. You can really grow to become an amazing pocket passer if you're already an amazing athlete with good footwork. You're just limiting that big play with your legs, which long term, with Cam Newton, what's his name, Achilles Smith. I mean, you just go down the list. Michael Vick, it just doesn't last. You'd think a quarterback like Mike Vick with an arm like his would just be, amazing for a long time, right? No, it's not the case at all. Why couldn't he play till he's 40? With his legs, his arm, because there's things in his game he didn't develop because of his athleticism. It's a double-edged sword. So I really hope the Redskins don't trade a bunch of people for Deshaun Watson. I really hope the Redskins don't trade for Matthew Stafford. He doesn't fit into the offense. What I mean by not trade for, he doesn't fit in the offense necessarily, but to acquire a player like him, you have to give up all these players. And it seems like Kyle Allen and the other quarterbacks on their team should be given a shot. I'm not saying Alex Smith. I do think there's some limitations there that are more than a bone bruise with his leg. You can't count on him necessarily. You really have to go after a veteran this offseason. But I'm not sure that Alex is going to retire, so we'll see. But as a football fan, I really do hope that cuts we just move on from the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. And I'm so upset the Redskins got rid of Kyle Smith's leaving. He's the guy that drafted all these players, the receivers, the defensive line, the corners. He's that guru that they're letting walk. All these young people we've let walk over the years, Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur. Oh my, come on. We bring in all these new people. We have a 65-year-old GM now, a random guy named Mayhew who, by other GM's measures, believed he wasn't a talent guy. He had to defer to other people. So what is his use? I feel like the only people that should be in the front office is a money guy and talent people. You don't need anything else. It's retarded. You have people that are good business relationships for trade purposes. That's about it. I mean, the idea that you're going to hold a guy that's good with money over the guy that knows how to pick players, that's absurd. So again, this whole coach mentality for the Redskins and everything's about Ron Rivera. So remember, Ron, you won with basically all the people that are already there, okay? I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing, but there is a talent issue, and maybe that caused problems with you and Carolina, the reason why you ended up getting fired. You don't value talent that well. I'm not saying that you Christian McCaffrey and everything, but maybe you held on to Cam too long, and you're I don't know. I just think you should compromise to some degree. Not everyone that you have on your staff is better than everyone that's already there. Kyle Smith just seems like a special guy. And it's really, really unfortunate that that relationship didn't work out. And for the Texans, I feel horrible for them. They have to trade their franchise quarterback. They really like Deshaun. I think it's crazy. The fact that they're not going to trade him, that they will trade him, and they're comfortable making him happy, they've made things that are like open like comments. The fact that Deshaun like has said, I'm upset that they hired GM without telling me. Who are you, dude? You don't win football games. The arrogance and the amount of shit you're getting away with that ESPN and all the pundits are allowing you to get away with, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like, it's so, the bravado is absurd. I just don't get it. You didn't win with Hopkins. You didn't win with like Andre Johnson. You're not winning. And I don't think it's the fault of your offensive line and you and the team and the general management and the people you have around. I'm sorry. I think you look really good on paper with your stats, just like Kirk Cousins, but there's fundamental errors in your gameplay. Some of them are self-learned, self-taught errors that need to like be thrown out. Some of it is developmental that may never be. There may be inherent flaws we're not going to realize. Steve McNair had these. I'm not trying to bring up another black quarterback, but I'm just saying like there's certain elements there that maybe like, dude, like, I don't know. I don't know. And it's possible that there's a trade market that might be, the reason why this is viable is because the Rams and the Texans have already talked about swiping Jared Goff for Deshaun, and that's why they've been more open to like appeasing Sean. And maybe Deshaun would rather be in that market for the money, you know what I mean? Like LA Rams, and that's his play. It has nothing to do with, like he fundamentally knows, like very few people can afford his contract. Swapping contracts with the Rams is a more legitimate prospect. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe his agent and him said, like, listen, you really want to make the money. The money's in LA. It's gonna be you and Herbert. Like, that's the play. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Or big market, like this is your opportunity to go to New York. You know, go to the Jets. Big market, big money. Houston is just not there. And he is kind of like despite all the shit, like the positive talk about him, like it's not a primary market, Houston. It's a big city. You know, it's Dallas. It's really rich. Houston. It's really poor and really rich. It's just. I don't know. I think the guy kind of has. This is what the last thing I'll say. And I don't want to keep this short. Trent Williams talking about with the Redskins left tackle, to refer to the Redskins, but his thing about like being treated unfairly by the Redskins and his cancer had more to do about getting money towards the end of his career and using like social media and like racism / like oppression / medical malpractice and using the power of social media to get him money. That was the play. It had nothing to do with the Redskins really being negligent. That's the sick little game, okay? So Deshaun could easily be playing the same bullshit game in this new world of social media that we've just talked about. It's so gross. And trying to cash out. And as a capitalist, I have no problem with that whatsoever. As someone who believes the world is more like pure and honest and like beautiful, I hate the world. I hate this world. I hate that technology has done this to us. Like the self-effacing, like humans are inherently greedy, like self-serving. It's so much more out in the open. I just wish that like people on the left, like younger people, saw like, you know, these Republicans aren't all racist, and these liberal politicians aren't all like because they don't all care about LGBT rights and like black rights, and they're pretending because that's the constituency that they go for as a party. Some of them don't care. They care about themselves. And what's more racist? Being a conservative, net, or lying to people that are supposed to be your voting bloc just for the sake of their vote, but you don't really care about like racism or anything like that. You just pretend to for their vote. I'd say that's more racist and fucked up. All right. Have a lovely day. Other channel, Deplorables with Attitude, will own the Bin show, and that's going to pop up soon. Click like button down below, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.